Welcome to the Right to Reason podcast. I am your host, Robert Stanley. Right now, we are supposed to be talking with Andrew Seidel about his new book, Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American. But due to some editing problems, we're switching things up, and I'm hosting that episode next week. But for this week, we're gonna get crazy. Aron, Rob, Brian, Keith, Dalton, and Chris Shelton will discuss the Democratic elections. You ready? Let's get started.
It's the Right to Reason podcast.
It's about time that we have an economy that works for everybody.
Who is this economy really working for? There are a lot of politicians who say, oh, it's just not possible, we just can't do it, have a lot of political reasons for this. What they're really telling you is they just won't fight for it.
For all the American citizens out there who feel you're falling behind, who feel the American dream's not working for you, the immigrants didn't do that to you. The big corporations did that to you.
Watching that image of Oscar and his daughter Valeria is heartbreaking. It should also piss us all off. I would sign an executive order that would get rid of Trump's zero tolerance policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, and the metering policy.
You're looking at just one small part of this. I'm talking about a comprehensive rewrite of our immigration laws.
That's not true.
And if we do that, I don't think it's asking
that's
too
actually
much
not
for
true.
people. Necesitamos incluir cada persona.
La situación ahora es inaceptable.
On January 20th, 2021, we'll say adios to Donald Trump.
Whether we're talking about Afghanistan, we've got to be completely engaged. And here's why.
Is that what you will tell the parents of those two soldiers who were just killed in Afghanistan? Well, we just have to be engaged. As a soldier, I will tell you that answer is unacceptable. We have to bring our troops home from Afghanistan.
Senator Harris, I'm so sorry. We will let all of you speak. Senator Harris.
Hey guys, you know what? America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table. Yes?
I was 6 years old when a presidential candidate came to the California Democratic Convention and said, it's time to pass the torch to a new generation of Americans. That candidate was then Senator Joe Biden. He's still right today.
I'm still holding on to that torch.
As part of Joe's generation, the issue is who has the guts to take on Wall Street, to take on the fossil fuel industry, to take on the big money interests who have unbelievable influence over the economic and political life of this country.
If you'd ever told me any time in my life that this country would sanction federal agents to take children from the arms of their parents, put them in cages, actually put them up for adoption. In Colorado, we call that kidnapping. I would have told you. I would have told you it was unbelievable.
I do not believe that the average American is a racist, but the average American is woefully undereducated about the history of race in the United States.
And I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden. I do not believe you are a racist, but I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. You also worked with them to oppose busing. You know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
This episode of the Right to Reason podcast is brought to you by our patrons and contributors like me. We have all recognized the value of the unrestrained marketplace of ideas and have decided to make a difference. You can make a difference too. Contribute at patreon.com/right and learn more about your right to reason at therighttoreason.com. Your activism is appreciated.
All I wanna do is zoom, and a boom, boom.
And today we are joined with three of my best friends, Chris Shelton, Aron Ra, and Brian Keith Dalton. You can find all of their content easily in today's show notes. Chris Shelton has a YouTube channel under the name Chris Shelton. He also has a website at mncriticalthinking.com. You can also find his book on Amazon, Scientology A to Z New, an insider's guide to what Scientology is all about. Brian Keith Dalton, everybody knows him better as Mr. Deity. Find him at MrDeity.com. Also, his YouTube channel, just titled Mr. Deity. And Aron Ra at AronRa.com. Aron, you've been on the show, what was this, your third time now?
I can't keep track.
I don't know. But also, he's got the Ramen podcast, and you can find that on YouTube. Gentlemen, I'm so happy to be talking to you guys today.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be asked about this.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Democratic election. Did everybody get to see the two recent debates that happened?
We did.
Yep.
Well, you guys aren't the only ones that got to watch that. Ted Cruz got to watch it. He went on to Sean Hannity's show and said this.
Joining us now, Senator Ted Cruz of the great state of Texas. Senator, how are you? Good to see you.
Sean, great to be with you.
I watch closely, and I'm paying very close attention. It's now every second, minute, hour of every day hating Donald Trump. And then it's the new Green Deal. And it's socialism at a level we've never seen before and with a predictable result, correct?
Just want to interrupt real quick. What's with the socialism thing? Like, it's so funny to me how these guys are just obsessed with pushing that if you have free healthcare or free college, that we're all of a sudden going to become the Soviet Union. It's absolutely...
Because this type of propaganda isn't interested in solving a problem. They want to evoke fear. And so that's, all of the followers of the people that watch the show, they are meant to be kept scared.
It's like Mormons using the term anti-Mormon or Christians using the term devil. It's literally just a demonization tactic.
Yeah, exactly, which of course lines up with Scientology's suppressive people. Same drill. And it's really just an outgrowth of the communist scare from the 50s. Same tactics, same ideas. And as it rolls forward, same outcomes.
And it's socialism at a level we've never seen before and with a predictable result, correct?
Look, the debate last night.
Take a sip of water.
I just wanted to leave the part. Normally, I would edit out somebody coughing on my show. And it's something like Fox, you would think that they would leave Ted Cruz out coughing, but they don't. And that, to me, that really lines up perfectly with Fox because all they want to do is just give you something that's going to get your attention. I mean, in the same screen, it has the word live in it, but it's showing an image from the debate that was live. So it's not even live. They could have edited it, but they don't. And it's also got Fox News alert. Oh my God. It's an emergency. It's completely ridiculous. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to finish this up.
Take a sip of water. By the way, that's your Marco Rubio moment, just in case you didn't know. It happens. Don't worry about it, Senator. It's okay. But the thing is, when you look at the Democrats, you pay close attention, they seem to have a few agenda items. Hating Trump, new Green Deal.
Yep. Look, the debate last night, the clown car is broken. There's no brake, and it only steers left. I gotta say, it was scary last night. It was scary to see the Democrats.
Right there, just like you were saying, with the fear tactic, everything's scary.
Every one of them falling all over each other to get further and further and further left. You saw the Democrats, you just went through it in your monologue powerfully. You saw them embrace late-term abortions. You saw them embrace 70% tax rates. You saw them embrace socialism. You saw them tell the American people they want to take away everyone's health insurance.
They want to take away everyone's health insurance. I did not hear that on the debate stage. Did you guys hear that one?
What I actually heard was that they wanted to replace the insurance companies who are completely unnecessary middlemen, they are the reason why the United States has to pay higher for pharmaceuticals and for medical care than anywhere else in the world. So they want to replace it with a national health care system that would eliminate the middleman.
And it's about time, as far as I'm concerned.
We would still have health care. In which case, so they're misrepresenting it.
Yeah, actually, more people would have health care.
Well, the idea is that everybody gets health care. Insane as that might sound. And I don't know that the intention here is, okay, tomorrow everybody in every insurance company wakes up without a job. That's just not realistic at all. This is a thing that is going to take a very long time to resolve and roll out any kind of plan. So, this idea that we're just trying to eliminate, thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of jobs overnight and give everybody a bunch of free stuff is such a gross exaggeration and missing the point of what's actually trying to be done.
If everyone has health care, who will Jesus heal? That's the real problem.
So where does everybody line up on this one? Does everybody have a favorite so far?
I love Mayor Pete. He's not necessarily as progressive as I would like. I'm a little to the left of him, but I have not seen someone with that kind of political talent in my lifetime. I mean, he's brilliant. Obviously, I think he's clearly decided maybe 10, 15 years ago that he wanted to be president, because he is just making every right move you can make in terms of, the guy was a Rhodes Scholar, and then he got out of college and joined the service and went to Iraq and served, and now he's come home and been a mayor for, I don't know, 8 years, something like that. But his ability to be genuine is just amazing to me. But there's no one there on that stage whose dog I wouldn't vote for over Donald Trump. So it's an easy pick this year.
That's a brilliant perspective on that. I mean, when we had the clown car of 17 people for the GOP last election, it was like there was nobody there that I could stomach if they won in the nomination. There was nobody there that wasn't going to be bad. That just everybody was bad. And now, out of the 20 Democratic candidates, we have 5 people who should not be there and should not get the nomination. The other 15, I'm good with.
Leading, of course, with Marianne Williamson, right?
yes. Because love wins, right?
Absolutely.
Oils and crystal aromatherapy will probably solve all our problems.
Yes.
The funny thing is I actually have a line in Mr. Deity where I think Lucy says something to him like "love wins," and he actually laughs at her. As I did when Marianne Williams said that. I'm like, is she familiar with world history at all?
I know. She was. She had an interesting perspective. I'll put it that. I'll definitely give her that.
Every time she spoke, my wife said, "What is she talking about?"
There was one line early on, and I can't remember what it was about now, where I was like, okay, she's pretty dead on that one thing. And then she just went off the rails the whole rest of the debate. It was just
exactly.
Funniest moment for sure was when Beto O'Rourke starts speaking in Spanish, and you see Cory Booker, who you find out later that was his plan, was to be the Spanish speaker, and his face, he's just like, oh man.
Yeah, damn it. He beat me to the punch.
There have been many memes.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
Once Booker had his opportunity, and he was so much more fluent. He was obviously more fluent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to say, what Beto was saying was indeed Spanish.
Even
when Booker started talking, and when the interviewer asked Beto a question in Spanish, and it's like, I think I saw some comedian say, that's not one of the phrases I rehearsed. So.
Right, exactly.
Another big kudos to Mayor Pete, because I think he speaks 8 languages. Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. I just shot an interview with Michael Shermer and Jared Diamond 2 months back, and I was shocked to find out that he speaks 13 languages, including those languages that they speak in. Where is it? There were the headhunters, and they're still cannibals and.
Jared Diamond, the author of The Third Chimpanzee?
Yes. And just meeting him, I was a big fan already, but he's amazing. He's the most accomplished person I think I've ever met in my life. He's a classical pianist and plays incredibly well. And then he's lived everywhere and, done all kinds of anthropological and historical and medical work. And I mean, he's just amazing. He's a medical doctor on top of everything else. I'm like, I left there just feeling like I had done absolutely nothing with my life. I almost took my own life.
It's similar to interviewing extreme athletes. I interviewed a guy who was an extreme athlete who had climbed Everest and 13 other mountains and run across America, like doing a marathon every single day, this kind of thing. And you just stand there thinking to yourself, I'm nothing.
Right.
I have a hard time. I'm breathing heavy coming up the stairs, walking back, getting my mail. I mean,
hey, check out my videos on YouTube. That's something.
I think in this race, the best that we can say is that there are that handful of people who shouldn't be up there and shouldn't get it.
Yes.
And I'm completely comfortable with so many of them. Now, top of my chart is still Bernie, for the reason that everybody up there, all the progressives that were up there, We're talking about policies that nobody was talking about until he introduced them in the last election.
Yes.
So
and has been talking about them for 35 years.
Exactly.
That's the impressive thing to me about Bernie is you can go back and look through statements and speeches he's given, and he basically predicted everything. It's just amazing. There's one speech from, I don't know if it's 2002 or something like that, where he predicts the crash of 2007, 2008, and for the exact reasons why he's, the guy's been on top of his game for a long time. I love Bernie too, but I think Elizabeth's going to steal his steam this time. She's really coming up on him.
Well, I agree. I'm comfortable with Elizabeth Warren as well. At least we.
I am too. Yeah.
I want somebody that we can reason with, even if we can't get the right person. Even if we can't get the one, my favorite in, I want somebody in that we can negotiate with, somebody that we can pressure. For example, I mean, even Hillary, who I don't like at all, never did. But I mean, even Hillary said that she had a public persona and a private persona, and that her public persona had to bend to what her constituency demanded. So the voters would decide what her position was going to be on gay marriage, for example.
Right.
My problem with Bernie is that even though he's been saying the same thing for the last 40 years, you can't know what time period he's saying it in the video because he hasn't aged in 40 years. He looks the exact same every time.
That's true.
Yeah, I like Bernie too.
Some people,
the old version of Peter Pan.
He always looks like he's about to get into the DeLorean and time travel. You know what I mean? He's been looking that way for 30, 40 years. It's crazy.
That's right. In the short list, the people who should be removed. Sorry, but I'm gonna say crystal aromatherapy girl.
Yes,
should
I agree.
Definitely go away.
Damn it! I wanted her to go the distance, man.
She had potential.
Then there was the other guy who all he could do was criticize socialism, and it became evident that he didn't even know what it was. When they were in the debate, when he was saying, okay, what is the problem with socialism? Well, we just need to get rid of socialism. Yeah, can you tell us what the problem with it is? Why is that a problem? But he didn't understand anything. So he's anti-social. I don't even remember the guy's name because he's not going to be important next week.
Yeah, nobody does.
So, yeah. and then one of the other ones that needs to go away is Biden.
Yes.
Yeah, Biden
I
was the last
definitely agree with you on that.
Biden was the last establishment Democrat that the Democratic Party could put up to try to beat back the progressives, because the Democratic Party does not want the progressives to take over, and the progressives are taking over. They didn't even know. And one of the things that the DNC has to understand and realize is, I realize that they have a whole lot of financial involvement and they're huge financial corruption. They've got the ties to Goldman Sachs and all of that sort of thing, but they represent 1/4 of the country. As does the GOP. Again, 1/4 of the country. Half of this nation are independent voters. Now, of course, that you could divide that half, end up left, right, whatever, right-leaning politics. But you have to cater to that half of the country that will not identify to either party. And in the last election, we saw big problems that if you weren't registered to vote as a Democrat or a Republican, you couldn't vote for an independent candidate. You couldn't be registered as an independent and vote for a Democratic candidate. It just wasn't allowed in some states.
Right.
And that I see that as a huge problem. They have to realize that they don't own this.
Yes.
Right.
Joe would be actually, again, better vice president material. I don't know if that's even constitutionally okay, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
Well, a vice president doesn't have to do much, doesn't have to be capable of much. I mean, look, Pence is vice president, and
I would like to see the vice president step up and be a little bit more proactive these days, especially the reason I bring that up, and actually the only reason I bring that up in terms of Biden, because I'm really not a Biden fan, is because they're right that I was reading earlier today, Rolling Stone breakdown on these guys. And they are absolutely true. It's correct that he has foreign policy credentials that are, pretty bulletproof.
Regarding Biden, I think he's long past his time, and I don't say that based on ageism. I do say that based on his views are Democratic Party from 1992, when they were trying to pull a little center right, because they'd gotten their hats handed to them so many times in the last 3 elections. But I always have to add the caveat. But if he's the nominee, I'm all over that shit. I'm all over that shit. Anything, anything to get Trump out of there. I don't think he's going to pull it off, because I think just what people saw on Thursday night with Kamala going after him and him. I mean, she just took him apart.
She eviscerated
piece
him.
by
That's
piece.
the
She
word.
really did. She emasculated him. Really is what she did.
But we kind of knew that was going to happen. We didn't know that it was going to be her to do it, but we knew that was going to happen because if you saw interviews with him, just one-on-one interviews prior to this, listen, this guy's got no game. He is not ready for this.
No, he's always been a terrible campaigner for president. He's just blown it at every turn, and he'll put his foot in his mouth as quick as you can get that mouth open. I mean, it's just
But the problems I have with Biden is we have a number of things that people are trying to take action on, like the national health care. This is something the country is going to have national health care. And if the candidate isn't backing that, then the candidate isn't going to be elected.
Right.
And another thing that Biden is not on board with, just as Hillary was not on board. Hillary was saying, we should acknowledge climate change and take incremental steps. No, fuck that. We need to hit the brakes hard, slam the bitch in reverse. Burn rubber backwards. We need to fix this problem immediately.
Yeah.
And the incremental shit just means keep doing the damage. Just make it look like we're doing it slower. That's not going to get it.
Exactly. In fact, the only person both nights that I thought was at all on the right page on that, because it sounded like he was almost single issue on it, is Jay Inslee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. From Seattle, from Washington. He spoke at the correct level of, hey, this is a drop everything and get this dealt with situation, and no one's saying that, and that's the level of importance that needs to be placed on it.
He's one of the ones, though, on my list who needs to get the fuck out. He needs to become he needs to become Jay Outsley.
Well, if we can get him on as like the environment guru or something, you know what I'm saying? That's right.
The environmental advisor to the president, or something like that. He'd be great.
Or the EPA. Let's build back up the EPA and put him in charge.
What is that again? The EPA? What is that?
Yeah, right.
Do we still have one? Is that, or did they get rid of that? I know Rick Perry wanted to get rid of that. That's probably one of them.
If it's still around, it's not for lack of trying on the Trump administration's part.
Perry's killing the Department of Energy right now, isn't he?
Yeah, we may still have those initials on a building somewhere, but
right.
I think the department is otherwise gutted, apart from a fax machine in the corner that isn't connected anymore.
A bunch of scientists hiding in the basement.
But could you imagine that kind of passion at the head of the EPA?
Yeah, that would be great. That
would be impressive.
Well, there we go. We found a job for him. Now he can get out.
That's right.
Are we all on the same page where it really doesn't matter who's the front runner? We're just going to fight against Trump in the end on that last day.
Well, it really from anybody, even if it was one of the people that Brian and I would rather get rid of, because I think I think our lists are probably going to look real similar.
Well, I told somebody the other day, I said, well, look, if it was a choice between Trump and Marianne Williamson, I'd rather wake up every morning with tweets of love and not have my anxiety level, and my amygdala 3 times the size that it needs to be every morning.
Yeah.
Right? I'd be okay with tweets of love, if for a while. So yes, anybody but Trump eventually.
I find myself having thoughts that are not necessarily rational, but hatred for Trump fueled. One of them is, I really want to see a woman beat him, because I think that would be the most humiliating thing for him.
Yes.
And, I was so thrilled at the thought of Hillary beating him, and then that didn't go well. And now I really, I was not necessarily a big Kamala fan, before Thursday night. I liked her. I think she's great. I think she's strong. But when I saw her, and just imagined her going up against Trump, because I really do think she could just kick the shit out of him and wipe the floor with him and make him look like an imbecile. She's got skills on that level from being a prosecutor. And
that's something to take into account, isn't it?
I did kind of get a little fired up about maybe a Harris Buttigieg ticket. That would be kind of my dream now. But Elizabeth's fine too, and any of the women, whoever can, come at him and take him down, because they're a gay man would be good too. But I think Buttigieg is just too young. Give him 8 years or
yes, exactly. I'm on that page.
I don't want to say just any of the women, because I really do think that Williamson needs to go and align somebody else's shoppers.
Okay, yes, I should have said. I should have.
For sure, yes.
Thank you for catching that. Yeah. But even though, it's again, the tweets of love in the morning would sure beat this shit we deal with.
That's right.
Well,
I was
a low bar. It's a really low bar.
Exactly. I would love to see Harris just so I can watch her debate Trump.
Yes, exactly.
Because if he tried any of that stalking nonsense with her,
yes,
right, where Trump was coming up behind Hillary every other question, right? She'd just turn around and slap him.
Yeah,
I am positive she would just turn around and literally slap him.
Yeah.
Or just turn around and tell him to get back to his own podium. That's probably what she would really do, but that would be just as effective.
It would be.
Right.
It would be. Yeah.
Okay, tough question. If we can see that everybody's policies have been moved toward Bernie's original policies, and nobody's going to like what I'm about to say, but I'm just throwing it out there. Is it possible that we had to take the sacrifice of losing the 2016 election, Trump being in office, for us to get to this progressive place?
I'm going to have to agree with that on one other level, too, is because there's a lot of us who had no idea how bad our country really was. We needed to see Trump in power and these other people, this other faction of our population, feeling empowered to realize how bad the situation really is, that we're not dealing with many rational people in this country. Do you realize that? I mean, there's nobody in my family that will talk to me anymore. None of them.
Wow.
And it wasn't religion that drove them away. It was their worship of that marmalade Mussolini that was completely unjustified. And they all buy into all of they're all birthers. They all think Obama was a socialist. I mean, they buy every ridiculous thing that Trump had ever said or that the Fox News ever put out. Every ridiculous allegation, they believe it all.
Yeah.
It's sad but true. And it has been a wake-up call for many of us on this. And of course, I have my own unique history where my head was buried in the sand for decades anyway. But seeing what's been happening over this time, over the last, because I've been following Trump from the day he announced his candidacy, and started talking about that and looking into him, and it's just been one disaster after another. And you realize, holy cow, there's a whole, like you just said, Aron, there's a whole swath of the population that is absolutely not ever anywhere near the same page we're on.
Yeah.
And has no desire to be. Doesn't have any desire to understand an opposing point of view, doesn't have any, I basically have labeled it a cult at this point. It's just a Trump cult.
I just think that it was important for Bernie to get out and run both last time and this time, just to, a lot of movement just happens because somebody has the balls to stand up and say the shit that needs to be said.
Right.
That's right.
I don't think he ever really had a hope of being president when he ran last time. But what he did, and it's kind of an amazing sacrifice on his part, is he just went out there and started pushing these ideas and talking about them. Elizabeth has been great too on that kind of stuff. I mean, she's been on it for years and years and years. They've both been amazing in terms of forcing Americans to realize how this economy is just so bent towards corporations and the rich, and how everyone else has been getting screwed since the 80s and trickle down. And, that's the thing that makes me love Bernie even more, even though I may say, he's probably not the candidate right now. I think it's not an age thing. It's just, Bernie, there's just there does seem to be a point where we're at where we gotta look to someone younger. I love the direction we went with Obama because he was younger and that was kind of very forward looking. And I'd like to see that again. That's really my only gripe about Bernie is the age. And it's not necessarily ageist. It's just who can propel us forward, who can keep moving, who has another 30 years in the game where they can really do some shit.
I don't think it's ageism to be concerned about a 77-year-old candidate who potentially is looking at 8 years in public office in the most powerful office in the world. This is not an office where we already know what it looks like when somebody starts suffering from some dementia. And I am not at all saying that Bernie Sanders is demented or anything like that. Right. You never know what's going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and the chances, statistically speaking, are simply what they are. are.
The other thing is the millennials are tracking so well with the Democratic Party right now and liberalism, and not liberalism, progressivism, that I think that's another thing where he actually, the irony there is he has such crazy appeal with young people. So what I'm realizing what I'm saying is not necessarily relevant to his candidacy, but I do think that young people would like to see someone who's at least, maybe within 30 years of their age instead of 50 at this point, or 60, who knows.
Another thing about that sacrifice that you were talking to, just to build on that. I mean, there was Obama and Hillary were both invested in the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
As was Trump. Right. So and then that Hillary and Trump both had the same address for one of their shadow companies that they invested in and everything. So they were enormously corrupt.
Right,
and we had to go to Standing Rock physically just to prove that the thing was happening, because CNN and MSNBC, none of those were going to be there. There was no mainstream media there. The only reason anybody knew that Standing Rock existed was because of social media.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
So when I go up there physically just to prove that the thing is actually happening, and when we got there, it was just fortuitous. So when we showed up and when we were leaving, we got to see the most important news. How the state had authorized the use of weaponized drones, how they were literally crop dusting chemicals on the Sioux that were camping at the site.
Oh, dear God.
That they were shooting rubber bullets, and a child was hit. Somebody's arm was broken. I mean, the violence that was, and then people were being, the constitutional violations. There were two journalists that were internet journalists, like one from Democracy Now, for example, because you were not going to get mainstream journalists in there. You could only get internets or like Democracy Now, and they were both of these journalists were charged with 45 years in prison for reporting the news, which is their constitutional right. And one of them, bravely, I thought she should get some kind of an award for this, for journalistic integrity, because she was out of the state when she found out that she was charged with this, and then she returned to the state to stand trial, wherein, of course, that was thrown out. Because it is constitutional. And of course, it was also thrown out for the other journalists. But I mean, people were getting arrested all the time. And then the charges ultimately would have to be dropped because there's no way to ground this. But it was absurd what was going on until finally Obama did the right thing, wherein he said, okay, this is it. We're going to go with the Army Corps of Engineers. They say that this won't work, can't work. We're not going to do this. We're shutting this project down. Yay! They won. I saw what was a very important turning point in American history, wherein a peaceful standoff, essentially hippies versus the oligarchy or the corporatocracy that runs this government, had effectively won. But then, and if Hillary had won the election, then she would have gone, I'm sure, she would have gone with what Obama had already said, even though she was invested in the pipeline too. So she loses money as well. But Obama had set the standard. Hillary's not going to go against that. Trump, of course, would. So Trump has always worked against Native Americans. He's always expressed his hatred of them. He wanted to take away the reservations just so that he could run their casinos ultimately into the ground. Right. So then he pretends, as he always does, everything he does is dishonest. He pretends that he didn't even know that there was an issue at Standing Rock, and he reopened the Keystone Pipeline. And then, of course, what happened? It ruptured exactly like every expert said it would, and thousands of gallons of crude oil goes into these people's drinking water.
I'm just realizing how appropriate this is. So Trump was basically saying, "I'm shocked to find that there's gambling going on here."
Shocked, I say.
Yes.
Speaking of a woman, speaking of a young person, speaking of an oil-driven military-industrial complex. Aloha motherfucking Tulsi Gabbard. I thought she did awesome. She's talking about Venezuela. She's talking about Iran, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, everything, bringing it right to the forefront. I loved her.
Every time I've heard her on someone's show or whatnot, I'm always impressed. I didn't know who she was before this, before she started running about, 6 months ago? She was one of the early ones, wasn't she? She was really in there. She might have been the first.
You talk about a Bernie influence. Wasn't Bernie the first person to promote her?
Yes.
Perhaps,
and then she's running against him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have reservations about her, but I have more research to do before I'll really make much of that public.
And again, her over Trump in a New York minute.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I would definitely prefer Harris, Warren, Sanders, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got our top 5, I guess. We're all going to agree, I think, pretty much on the top 5.
Yeah.
But, and I think we agree on the bottom 5. No, it's this middle set.
Yeah, Hickenlooper definitely is not making the cut for me. I don't know what it is, but no.
I posted on Thursday night that Tim Ryan is the private no one thought worth saving. He needs to go. He needs to go.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that one.
And John Delaney's wife and kids needed to be reminded of who he was. I mean,
right.
What? Who is this guy? I didn't know. I'm looking at him. I don't remember ever seeing him. It's like someone's boss at work got onto the debate stage. It was just strange.
It very much was. In fact, there were jokes being made about how there were random contestants selected at random from the audience to put up on the stage, and nobody actually could tell the difference,
That's funny.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question for you guys. Maybe you could reassure me here, because I am more than a little concerned that the DNC didn't get the memo from 2016. Do you guys have any indication that they are not going to screw the pooch like they did with the Hillary thing? As far as I perceived that the fix was in before Bernie even really announced.
Yep.
Could the same thing be said of Biden? Do you think they're that stupid to do that again? What do you guys?
I do think they're that stupid. That's why
I do
Biden's
too.
in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do too. Yeah, they're. It's the Democrats are just the worst party in the world except for the Republicans. It's Churchill's line about democracy is the worst form of government except for all the rest. It's they really are just horrible. They're clueless, and they're just completely out of touch. They're clearly just so insular. They stay within their own little corporate Democrat pack, and not the kind of pack we really hate, but just group of people, and then just talk amongst themselves kind of thing, and never figure anything out beyond that. They were so awful in 2016, so horrible. It's just truly awful, and they're still as clueless as they can be. So that's another area where I'd love to see new blood. Get in.
Yes.
Get in and take over.
I have to say, there's a couple of people, somebody on the Democrat, I don't remember which it was, but he kind of moved into that get out of here pile for me when he said that Pelosi had made the right decision in not to impeach. Now, I understand that impeachment would not mean that Trump is removed from office, but it would mean that that people would be informed about what the hell he actually did. Right. Because there are people who, in my family, refuses to admit that Trump ever lied.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that I can show conflicting, the videos. I showed my mother a video of Trump admitting that he had lied to the Canadian Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And then she would say, well, he's on the right track now. No, you're not getting it, Mom.
No, well, there's that guy on CNN who's fact-checked him at 5,000. I think he's clocked in at 5,000 documented lies.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the Washington Post has him well over 10,000 now.
He lies bigly.
So if they did an impeachment, then we would have more public information about what the hell he actually did, and that this is not just paranoid ramblings. That this is actually what the investigation shows.
And people would be willing to, there would be more people, I should say, who would be willing to acknowledge the existence of those facts if it was transmitted across TV screens rather than in a 400-page Mueller report document, which does the job. The Mueller report does not pull punches. It is not difficult to figure out what he was trying to do or say in that report if you read it. But how many Americans are going to sit down and read that?
One of my best friends of 20 years won't talk to me anymore because he's a Republican Party delegate.
Wow.
And he wouldn't accept that there was any purpose to the Mueller report because it didn't result in anything. Like it didn't result in all of these convictions, or the convictions weren't relevant to either collusion or obstruction of justice. What can I say to this guy? Because Trump is not on charge. He's not being impeached. What can I even show him that he even justifies this?
Has this not been the most horrifying, and yet at the same time, in this bizarre, fascinating Twilight Zone way, the most educational experience in demonstrating cognitive dissonance, motivated reasoning, cognitive bias, and Dunning-Kruger.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I never imagined that I would have so many real-world examples of this stuff just slapping me in the face on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is terrifying. It really. I'm afraid of my fellow citizens at this point. I mean, I really am. I was one of those people who always said, let's not think ill of our political enemies. But
yes,
I mean, the deplorables are deplorable. I've done at least.
That's my family you're talking about.
I've done at least 3 videos now where I just keep documenting all of these people and how horrible they are, and it's something that I would not have imagined 25 years ago. That fucking Mitch McConnell, and that when they asked him if next year a seat opens up, will you fill it? And he says, yeah, and smiles like the son of a bitch that he is. He is Darth Vader in person. I mean, he is just pure evil. I've never seen a political operative like him who is just so transparently wicked and just awful. I mean, the smile that he gave after saying, yeah, we'd fill it is just chilling. It's absolutely chilling. And there's no one on that side of the aisle that's going to, say, shame on you. They're just going to put their hands in their pockets, turn around and walk away. It's just horrible. I've never seen anything like this.
It has been educational in a horrifying way to find out that 3 men can hold the government hostage. If you have the Attorney General, the President of the United States, and the Senate Majority Leader all agreeing to not check and balance each other, it's almost game over.
Can I say one more thing? Fuck Bob Mueller. Fuck him.
Yeah.
What an asshole. I am so upset with Bob Mueller. I know we're going to see him on the 17th. I have not a prayer in this world that he's actually going to stand up and do the right thing and say what needs to be said. But he's got all the information. He's got all the evidence. And he's sitting there telling us, I'm not going to say anything beyond the report. Well, fuck you. Fuck you, asshole. I've never been more upset at a so-called public servant who I admit is an absolute hero. He's an absolute hero.
No.
But talk about someone dropping the ball. I have never seen anything like this either. I mean, the guy, it has to be clear to the guy how awful and truly an existential threat to democracy this guy is, and he won't speak up, and I don't get it.
But Brian, he's always been evil. This guy lied to us about WMDs.
You're talking about Bob Mueller now.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm talking about Bob Mueller. Yeah.
Yes, and he lied about WMDs in Iraq. He's never been on our team.
Is he the guy? I thought that was
he was in on it.
Yeah, he was really. I didn't know that.
100%.
I did not know that.
No, we were screwed from the beginning of this investigation.
Wow.
Well, I see it as Bob Mueller was counting on the integrity of the office, because they have this tradition that is not spelled out in actual law, but this tradition that the Justice Department would not indict a sitting president. So he's assuming that the report will bear out. And so then he has to go before the Senate and clarify that this does not exonerate Trump, that if we thought that he didn't commit a crime, we would have said so. Well, now you need to make that message a little stronger, Bob.
Yeah,
they're not getting it.
Right.
Will he answer the question? Had that directive not been relevant, would he have brought indictments? Will he answer that question?
That's important, because he made a clarifying statement, but it was his statement to make. He wasn't testifying like he will be in this case. So yeah, there will be people asking. So that's straight up question. Yeah. Did Trump collude? Did Trump obstruct justice?
Right.
I will definitely be watching that one with.
I will too. Yes.
I feel like, having been following it as closely as I have all along the line, read all the indictments, the report, etc., and tracking with this thing, I think I understand the position that the guy is in, and I'm not trying to be a defender, because I totally get what you guys are talking about here, and I just think he was in an untenable position of, how do I bring an indictment when the head of the Justice Department, i.e. the Attorney General, is going to fight me and is not going to let that happen. He wasn't in a position to make that call, so he did, I thought, everything he could do. I have been disappointed that he has not gone public, and I'm hoping that will be remedied when he testifies it's probably foolish of me to have hopes like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a prayer. I think he's going to be the good company man and put his head down and just push through it.
That would be very sad.
Getting back to our primary discussion about the Democratic candidates, my fear about Biden being the favorite still, even after that first debate, and he's going to go down after the next debate too. But
I think she picked up 9 points. I read.
Yeah, 10.
Woo! 10. Wow.
10 points. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad.
He's going to divide the people up just the way Hillary did.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's not offering anything. He's not offering what the people want, right? And overwhelmingly, they want policies that he will not enact, that he will not work for. So people will not vote for him. And the corporatocracy that runs the DNC is going to fuck us over again, and we'll have 4 more years of Trump.
That's the lesson I was asking about earlier.
I think even if he's the nominee, I think the progressives at this point are not going to stay home. They're not going to sit on their hands. Blacks are not going to look at this Trump guy and go, yeah, how bad could it get? I mean, they're seeing how bad it can get this time. There's no mystery now. There's
and
you can't like, there's nowhere where you can hide and say, well, it might be okay. It's not going to be okay now. So that's my only hope.
I think 2/3 of the country, realizes that we are currently under the rule of the worst president in living memory.
Yes.
An absolute incompetent. He is a stereotypical cartoon caricature of a crime boss. How do people not realize this? He knows nothing.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand what time zones are. I don't think he understands that the world. He really doesn't, because he doesn't know that you can't call people at 5 o'clock in the evening on the other side of the world, and it'll be a different time for them, or that they'll be asleep. It'll be at 3 o'clock in the morning for wherever they are. He doesn't realize that these things are the case. He doesn't know anything. Every time he speaks, well, he's limited not only to a 4th grade level, but he's limited to a 4th grade understanding, of anything.
Yeah.
So I
agree.
I think the overwhelming majority, it won't be as slight as 3 million votes. And I don't know how the GOP would, and I know that they've got everything jerry-rigged to death, but even still, how can you run that guy against pretty much anybody the DNC comes up with?
Yeah, and the other thing that's terrifying me is that some of these candidates who are running for president right now should be running for the Senate.
Yes.
Beto among them.
Beto, I was all about him. Running for Texas Senate, but he's a centrist.
I think he could win, though, the other seat. John Cornyn. Yeah. Isn't it John Cornyn?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, I think he could win that seat.
And I really wanted him to do it, but unfortunately it's going to hurt his popularity that he ran for president.
Yeah. We got to get the Senate back. We got to get the Senate back. That's so imperative.
All of this is actually not meaningless, not at all. I'm not trying to imply that. But if we, like they said on the stage, if we don't flip Congress, then what are they going to do against Mitch McConnell? It's a valid question.
All right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing that is encouraging is I've heard a number of stories from different elections where you have somebody that is an evident racist or apparent racist, and he's beaten by somebody who's black, or somebody who's extremely homophobic, anti-trans, and then he's beaten by a trans woman. How outstanding is that, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting all these ironies come up where the very thing that person hates the most becomes his own replacement, and hey, you're out of a job, and the way that you think wasn't even proper when in your generation. It certainly isn't now. There's another thing. It is actually possible to do something about the environment and correct it. It really is. It's within our means.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough, and there are challenges nobody's talking about, or has even. I think there might have been one candidate. I think it was is it Yang? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I started to say
and Inslee.
Yang was talking about
the Washington guy also.
Yeah, Yang was talking about giving everybody $1,000.
Yes, Yang was the $1,000 a household guy.
Yeah, so
he's super popular in the Dave Rubin circles.
Yeah,
interesting. One of the things we're facing is, and that nobody's talking about, is that the way that things are isn't going to work anymore because just automation alone is going to completely overturn the way that we do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't be possible for people to get jobs when self-driving cars and self-driving trucks have now taken over every industry people had to get jobs.
Already happening in Germany, and it's coming here pretty soon. That's one thing. I think it might be a little early, but I think Yang is right on point with that. The universal basic income.
Yeah. So we're going to have to subsidize people because it won't be possible for them to have jobs anymore. And then what do we do about food production? Because and somebody's going to have to control the damn population because we don't produce food efficiently to manage these numbers. When you're going to have this many people on the planet, you have to be very careful about how you balance everything, and especially your food production. And we don't have any efficiency at all. So this is going to result in a huge problem if we don't take action in two different directions. First of all, I mean, the GOP and a lot of other people, too, are really upset about any idea of birth control. But, you kind of got to. I mean, it's a funny thing that the religious right have been all against what they call Darwinists over this evil that they call eugenics. But if they actually understood what eugenics was, it's actually what religious people have been using all along, trying to outbreed everybody else.
Right.
And so that's what eugenics is it's differential breeding. And so ideally everybody should slow down their reproduction so that we don't go all completely off the charts to where everybody ends up starving to death and it's completely unsustainable. But if you slow down your breeding, then the way eugenics works, then the others will arise past you or outnumber and overwhelm you. That's the thought there. But it is possible. It is possible to manufacture our own food now, where we don't need to clear away forest land to make room for cattle and all of this. We can actually do hydroponic farms. We can process that food and build it into meat if we want to now. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing what our technology is capable of if we have the wisdom to use it.
Well, and that's the key issue, is the wisdom to use it.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, right? And on that note, we really, really, really need somebody who is going to either get it or appoint the people who get it to deal with this, because Americans in general do not. Europe as a whole, I believe, statistically gets it. People are not sitting around defriending their family members or blocking close friends over climate change in Europe. But that kind of thing happens over here as much as it does with the politics.
You know what I'd like to see the candidates say? Just something that is completely opposite of the current administration. That they will hire advisors who actually know stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right.
and follow the advice of those advisors.
Right.
But Trump hires all the best people.
They'll put people in to head the Department of Energy who actually know that the nukes are part of that. It'll be amazing. Right? It'll be amazing.
They'll put somebody to head the Department of Education who has one.
Yeah. Yes.
Was this the first time that trans rights were brought up in a presidential debate? I want to say it is. Because we had three different.
I can remember. I don't want to say it's the first time it's ever happened. I suspect that it has happened before, but I don't remember it happening before.
Yeah, I don't remember it at a presidential debate. I've certainly seen it talked about, in debates, but not at this level.
But this one, it came up multiple times in both.
Yep. Yeah. I spent my morning today. I was protesting a church that advocated that homosexuals should be killed by the government.
Oh, I saw that. Good for you, man.
So that's people wanting to, and of course, if they hated me and they were slurring me because I wore a skirt when I was there last week, because I protested two weeks in a row. Last week, however, I showed up in a kilt with a sporran and everything, and yet they were criticizing me today to my face because I was wearing a skirt and dressing, as they said, like a queer.
Jesus.
By the way, anyone who's ever worn a kilt knows how stupid men are for wearing pants.
Yeah.
It is the best thing in the world, and I don't know how we got so bass-ackwards on this thing. Let the ladies wear the pants, and we should all be wearing the skirts and the kilts, whatever you want to call them. Oh, my God, it's so much nicer. Ridiculous.
Yeah, but that was their hang-up, right? So they're completely bent out of shape because I show up. These are people with Scottish heritage.
Right.
They just don't realize that their last name has Scottish roots, right? So they have no idea. So they have no idea what a kilt is. They think it's a feminine garment. I knew that they would think that. That's why I wore the damn thing. Because I knew that these are dumb people. They don't know anything, and they're just going to react the way exactly the way I predicted that they would react.
Freaking
if they're outraged, and want the government to impose death on me for dressing in a skirt, as they put it. Well, yeah, then look how oppressive they're going to be over actual trans people.
Right. Oh yeah,
right.
No, the threat is real. There are some really crazy folks out there, and that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing about the Democrats and how bad they are?
No.
This is an area where I really relate to Bill Maher about, in terms of the Democrats always trying to take the high road.
Yes.
When they have perfect excuses to take the low road. And the two examples I'm thinking of is right now, the whole impeachment thing. They should at least start the inquiry, an impeachment inquiry, because the excuse is they won't give us witnesses. They won't give us materials. We have to take it to the next step because they've put us in this position. The same way Barack Obama should have said, I have to make this appointment, this recess appointment of Merrick Garland, because Mitch McConnell's being a dick, and that would be done with it. No one ever thinks to say, well, you know what? We do have, they leave so much on the table all the time. They just walk away and say, all right, well, I guess we can't play with them. Yeah, you can. You can play with them and you can kick the shit out of them. Just take advantage of what you have there. That's the kind of stuff that just drives me nuts. They are constantly bringing knives to a gunfight. And then when the gun is on the table and it's there and they can pick it up and use it, they just walk away. It's amazing to me.
Just grow a pair.
I couldn't understand how when Garland said, or when McConnell says, no, I'm not going to approve your nomination, and Obama just says, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Like there has got to be an option.
That was all planned. That was all planned so that everybody would vote for Hillary. It was a complete setup right from the beginning. That's my opinion.
Well, it was poorly thought out.
Yeah. If that's the case, they're even stupider than I thought.
Yeah, that was a whacked priority job there, because Supreme Court's forever. You don't mess around with that. You fight tooth and claw. There's no giving ground on a Supreme Court nominee ever for any reason.
Funny about that, you talk about poorly thought out. I mean, Hillary and Trump knew each other. They were actually friends, attended each other's kids' weddings and that sort of thing. And so Hillary wants Trump to run against her, thinks he's the impossible candidate that will make her look good. Trump actually hired actors because he couldn't get anybody to take him seriously. When he came out to announce, he filled an auditorium with actors he paid to attend to make him look popular.
Of course he did. That is zero surprise.
Yeah. Absolute evidence.
And then, of course, people start buying into him. And then look at the way that the debates were set up. He's 6'2". He lies and says he's 6'3", but he's actually 6'2". And so he's only 1 inch taller than me. And by the way, I have to wonder how a man who is visibly fatter than me and taller than me somehow weighs less than me. But we'll get past that.
We'll get past that, yeah.
But he's the tallest guy, and they put him in the middle, and they focus all the questions on him. And it's completely set up to allow Trump to win. They give him all of this free publicity so that he does.
Well, let me throw something in here, because it speaks to the Democrat strategy, I hope, this time around, which is, one of the reasons I was talking to one of my conservative-leaning friends, gun owner, Arizona resident, and he was, upset about how progressive, how leftist some of the position statements were. And I said, yeah, man, but, again, look at the rollout. Look at what it's going to take. We're talking about years of this. So you have to push those boundaries. You have to say the outrageous things to your ears. This stuff is completely nuts and outrageous. And how dare we talk about universal health care or canceling student debt or free college? Oh, my God, that's insanity. That's hysterical speaking, right? And I said, but what you're hearing right now is what we heard when Trump was on the campaign trail. And I said, hopefully the Dems are media savvy enough from the lessons of 2016 that they keep talking crazy talk so that the media reports what they say, follows them around instead of Trump, and gets the GOP on the defensive of having to respond to these crazy comments that the leftists are making all the time instead of forwarding their own agenda.
Maher said this years ago that you have to have the equivalent of the Tea Party nuts on the left screaming and yelling so that you just don't have one group pulling one way. You got to have the other group pulling the other way. So at best we stay center, just slightly left of center, because if they're the only ones yelling about this shit, we're going to pull right. You have to have parity.
Something I want people to understand is that a lot of people think that, like the people believe that Obama was a socialist, right? No. A lot of people think that, that Democrats are on the left, which has traditionally not been true. I mean,
right.
I looked up the two furthest left furthest left presidents in my life are both still considered either centrist or right. Neither one of them. JFK, who was president for like a month in my life, and Jimmy Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Every president has been listed in my life has been a right-wing authoritarian according to the political compass. Every one of them. So
yeah, none of them have really been on the left.
Yeah, we've never had one on the left, and we've never had one that was anti-authoritarian. And the dangerous thing about the anti-authoritarian side of the political compass is called the libertarian side, not to be confused with the Libertarian Party, which is exclusively right-wing. The entire left and right, bottom half, the anti-authoritarian side. That's where Bernie is. That's where I am, dead center of the left quadrant, the bottom left quadrant. We've never had a president there.
Yeah, right.
Not even FDR?
Not in my life.
Oh, of course.
Oh, in your lifetime. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
In your lifetime. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So I don't think we had a political compass, and I don't think we can. I don't know if we would even be able to find where FDR is on that. He might be.
But by the way, that is the frightening thing, is to get someone even close to that. Look what they had to go through.
Yeah.
You had to throw the entire world into financial crisis. And then, people start going, hey, well, maybe the way we've been doing things, maybe we should actually be looking out after each other and not throwing all our money to the corporations and Wall Street and all that shit. I mean, but that's really what it takes. I mean, I really thought there was going to be more change after 2007 and 2008. And it's shocking to me that we've haven't they already undone almost everything in terms of restrictions on Wall Street and shit like that? I mean, I think it's already all done.
If they haven't, it hasn't been for lack of trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have.
These guys have been flat out on dismantling all that stuff, and it's unspeakably stupid how insane these people get for the dollar over anything else. But that is the reality of it. I mean, trying to deny that that's a thing. It's where we're at. It's where our economy rests, and I would welcome someone who would actually start talking about that.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth and Bernie have. I mean, they've been really good on that. And Robert Reich is another one who's just been amazing on that shit.
Yeah, I love that guy.
I follow him closely, actually.
They totally gutted Dodd-Frank for sure.
Yeah, right. And no one's thought to go back to Glass-Steagall. Hello.
Right.
Hello.
That's right.
There's one where you just you want to punch Bill Clinton in the face.
Oh, huge.
That's the scary idea of, pulling out the crystal ball over here maybe, but the idea of, say we do get somebody progressive in there, and then this inevitable financial collapse, another recession that we all know is coming back because we didn't fix it, and then they get blamed for it. And how many more terms of some kind of crazy ass hat like Trump do we get again after that? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, the interesting thing is if we can get one where Trump only gets one term. Right. If Trump only gets one term and we have a Democrat in after that, the trend has been that the Democrats have actually improved the economy in the long term, where the deficit goes down. Right. For every one of them. And then there's huge debts that come up when the Republican comes in. And so you get the double term people. And then the next person comes in and is say the next Republican comes in is now riding on the laurels that were established in the previous economy. They're now riding that wave and taking credit for it. And then the huge debt that's caused by that Republican is then the next Democrat has to take the blame for that. And we keep seeing the cycle over and over again.
Exactly.
Right.
Only, as I said, shit is about to change, and it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Well, one way or the other, that statement is true.
Yes.
So I am truly, truly hopeful that things are going to work our way on 2020. If they don't, I am really, really, really concerned that this country's the great experiment could be coming to an end.
I think if Trump wins in 2020, it's time to move to Canada.
My wife and I spend
a lot about that.
My wife and I spend a lot of time out of the country because that's the only time we feel safe.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, we've actually been looking at other countries to move to.
Yeah.
But Yeah, my problem is twofold. One, I'm a political activist, so I really belong in the frying pan.
Right.
Yep.
And two, the problems that we're generating are global.
Yes.
And there's no escape from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very positive note to end on, gentlemen.
And on that cheery note,
I was just thinking we gotta go somewhere else now for
Yes.
a couple
I
seconds.
agree.
I
agree.
That's like getting us all the way there and then blowing the orgasm.
Right. Well, listen, guys. Let me. I feel a little responsible here. Let me say this. I have also not had so many reasons to be excited about the 2020 race as I have now, compared to how I felt about things back in at the last election in 2016.
I was very excited in 2016. I really was. I was so enthusiastic when I thought Bernie was going to get the nomination. We were actually going to start fixing the problems.
Yes.
And my principal interest has like always been the environment. I mean, since George H.W. Bush was running 1988, I'm like, why isn't the environment one of the platforms that people are talking about? Yeah. I was concerned about it that much way back then. And now we can actually do something. We actually have the technology to do something. And so I'm really hoping that we have the wisdom to. But had Bernie gotten the nomination, had things gone the way that I was very hopeful that they would, there's an awful lot about what was going on in this country, the seediness in both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party that wouldn't have come to light, that we wouldn't have noticed.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. It has been a wake-up call. It's been an eye-opener. And we can, I suppose we can look at that and go, okay, well, bummer. But at the same time, okay, that's knowledge is power. Let's use this. Let's utilize this. Let's do something positive with it.
Well, I will leave you with one last thing. When Trump won, there was a great article, and I can't remember who it was by or what it was in, talking about how this is a cycle as well, where we pull to the right and then everyone goes, oh shit. This is kind of awful. And they gave the example that was very appropriate of California here with Pete Wilson and Schwarzenegger and everybody bitching about, we had this Prop 187, I think it was here, where we were ready to cut off all the illegals from every service known to man. And everyone kind of went, oh shit, we've gone too far in the other direction. And then we have really pulled. I mean, I don't know if you've seen what's been going on in California here, but we have Governor Brown just has done some amazing things in the last nearly 8 years. So that's my hope now, is that it will wake everybody up and say, no, we need to go in exactly the opposite direction.
Yeah,
we'll see.
100%.
I hope.
100%.
Yeah,
it's almost like a cliche football movie, The Rock or something like that, where Macaulay Culkin or something, where it's like in the first 2 quarters, the whole team is fighting with each other. Nobody can get along. Nobody wants to change the plays up because the other team is, they see what we're doing. And then, we're at halftime right now. And if we don't make changes, we're going to lose.
Right.
And that's just the facts.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to specify that The Rock is in it. If you just say that if it was a movie made in the last 5 years, The Rock is already in it.
Right.
Yeah. And hopefully Trump represents rock bottom. Because if we go any farther down, we're fucked.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. Please tell everybody where they can find your content, your activism, what you're doing, how they can learn more about you.
All right. You can find me on patreon.com/ARONRA. If you like what I do, please support my work. I need all the help I can get. I'm
in the same position. I get most of everything I take in right now is through Patreon. So patreon.com/MRDEITY, Mr. Deity, no period.
Excellent. And I will throw my Patreon out there as well. It's patreon.com/Chris Shelton. And you can find all my work there and links to my YouTube channel and my book, Scientology A to Xenu, and my website and blog.
I think the only thing I have over the other two guys is you can get blessings as rewards from becoming a patron.
I will offer you atheist
and
prayers.
Thoughts and prayers too. I'm offering thoughts and prayers now too.
Nice, for free.
As an added bonus, you not only get the thought but the prayer.
I'll wish on a star for you.
You donate enough, you get front row seats to the apocalypse as well. So.
Thank you to Aron, Brian, and Chris. Thank you to Dave Blair at davefreesong.com/free music. Thank you to our patrons. You can also support this broadcast at patreon.com/right and learn more at therighttoreason.com. Next week, we'll really be talking to Andrew Seidel about his new book, The Founding Myth, Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American. Between now and then, remember that you have have the right to reason. The right to reason. The right to reason. The right